The program will begin momentarily, and once again, as a courtesy, please silence your devices. Thank you.
Everybody come in and find your seats. Come in and find your seats. Everybody come in and find your seats. Did someone lose their phone? Come on in, find a seat. We're going to get started here in just a few minutes. Everybody come in and find a seat. I love all the energy in the room.
So she's first. Who's just?
Okay, they're still all flooding in, so I'm gonna give it just a few more minutes because everybody's coming in. Y'all come in and find your seats. We're going to get started here in just a minute.
Here's Jeff Storm.
I know, but
Corey, I had not seen Corey.
we want to flip it.
Let's give it 2 more minutes. You want to start with flip it. Okay. You want to go with Corey? I hear the chants. I hear you. I hear you. I hear all of you. Okay, I hear you. I hear all the little individual group chants. How about we do one all together? How about if I say Oxford House and you say 50 years? Can we do that? Oxford House. 50 years. Oxford House. 50 years. I can't hear you. Oxford House. 50 years. People are still coming in. I'm gonna shift it on you. Ready? I'm going to say Oxford House, you're going to say 50 more. Oxford House. 50 more. Oxford House. 50 more. Oxford House. 50 more.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Lori, and I'm a woman in long-term recovery. And what that means for me is that I haven't found it necessary to have any illicit substances since December 20th of 2006. I know everybody's all hyped up and energized, but we do want to give the speakers a little bit of respect. Turn off your cell phones, put them on silent. I have one announcement that I want to make. We lose people while we're in recovery. Everybody hush. Okay? I understand that you're coming in, but just, kind of keep it to a minimum and find a seat as quickly as possible. But we have, on the app, we have the in memoriam. And if you would like to submit someone's name that has passed away over the last year, please go into the app and select the in memoriam and submit their whole name, okay? All right, so we're going to get started with this afternoon's session. This is the second general session, and we have some very prestigious guests today. Our first speaker is Ms. Corey Vilsaint, okay, PhD. She is the Associate Director of Recovery Health Equity Recovery Research Institute. Dr. Corey Vilsaint is a community psychologist and international speaker. She formerly served on faculty at Harvard Medical School and as an associate director of Recovery Health Equity at the Recovery Research Institute. Her research program examines the utility of recovery support services to enhance remission and support long-term recovery among diverse populations. Ms. Corey Vilsaint, PhD. Doctor?
Yeah, you're good. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Happy birthday, Oxford House. Yes, all right. I gotta tell you, you have a reputation on the circuit that this conference is unlike any else and the place to be. So thank you for welcoming here to share this moment with you. And I want to do my best to honor your time and make sure that you walk away with something that's helpful for you. So I'll go ahead and I'll jump in. I want to talk to you today just for a little bit about how we know it works. You know, you've all heard the word data, right? You've asked people to have you fill out a survey. They're doing a study. Why do we do that? It's a form of evidence. I really call data evidence. And Oxford House has absolutely been a pillar in garnering evidence that we have to support the efficacy of recovery housing. So thank you to your flexibility in laying out these studies. I got to tell you, I'm a community psychologist, but when I was going through my training in graduate school, I can tell you that across the country, it doesn't matter for any of us going through that training whether you're interested in addiction or not. Everybody learns the Oxford House studies because they are an example of the most rigorous study designs that are done in the community. That is what an impact that you are having. Yes. They teach us how to be community psychologists based upon the studies that you have been willing to participate in. So thank you very much. Let's go ahead and get started. Oh, recovery. Oh, this has come a far way, right? This is something that's come a far way. You know, with some help with people like Bill White and others, we really have been able to ask some clarifying questions about what is the goal when it comes to resolving a problem with alcohol or other drugs, and how do we operationalize that scientifically? We see it in lived experience. How can we get in on that with the evidence, with the studies, with the data, right? And so as time has moved on, we've tried to think more clearly and raise more questions. For example, what is recovery? You know, it used to be sometimes we thought recovery equals treatment. You would see that in studies, right? Is treatment alone a sufficient endpoint that we're working towards? Or should that be the goal is recovery something else? What about abstinence? Is abstinence alone the endpoint? Or is recovery something else? What about remission? This is absence of symptomology. When somebody enters into a phase of remission, how is recovery different from remission? These are the things that we've had to think about in order to get a foothold into science and to be able to explain to others and have the evidence to show what's going on with these recovery support services and how recovery is adding something to a field that's been in existence for quite some time. In fact, even our federal funders of recovery science have put their stamp of approval on the recovery as a concept, and as it has moved from grassroots organizations into the acceptance of government, medical, and scientific communities. You can see here that the NIH, the National Institute of Health, who has funded much of my work, has described a number of recovery milestones. You know, and now this is mostly based off of just a medical framework of remission, which is why the focus is on duration. You can see initial, this is where we spend a lot of time and money, expensive services, medical detoxification, clinical stabilization up front, right? But the focus is on how many months. Milestones are indeed helpful for thinking about the recovery process and what occurs at any given time. But again, is this sufficient, right? Thinking about duration. Well, we are rising up and saying that recovery is more than the absence of symptomology. It's more than the absence of pathology, more than the absence of substance use. It really implies the presence of something else, the presence of health. It implies the presence of well-being. In fact, there has been a paradigm shift ushered into this by the recovery concept, that you can now see that we were coming from a medical and a very moral framework that described the process as resolving a problem with alcohol or other drugs from this type of symptomology and pathology framework. But now we are learning to include strengths. We get this from the recovery field. You can see the change from a focus on remission to recovery and resilience. We used to only look at risk, right? What is risky? Now we need to know we have to take stock of what is protective, right? We used to only check off everybody's deficits. Here's what's broken with them. But they have assets, they have resources. We need to document, reinforce what is functioning with people. We've moved from this pathological to adaptive, thinking about this being coming from we were cultivating powerlessness to some degree. But now, with recovery support services, we're trying to cultivate empowerment. You can see we were talking about disease. Now we're talking about health. In fact, that framework was missing what research has showed us is one of the strongest predictors of long-term remission, which is strength-based, assets and resources. So, how have we been able to operationalize this idea of recovery? Well, I like the way my boss calls it recovery vital signs, right? It's like when you go to the doctor's office, they take your vital signs, body temperature, heart rate, blood pressure, in order to assess your function and guide some decisions for you. But what are the recovery vital signs of recovery? That's what's missing from this, right? We're trying to figure out what is the endpoint, how are we adding to this? At the Recovery Research Institute, we've started to insert a number of recovery vital signs that we think are important to keep track of. We want to know how people's quality of life is, meaning how satisfied are they with their ability to perform their daily activities? What about their recovery capital? Their assets and resources that they need to initiate and sustain recovery over time. We consider these to be the building blocks of recovery. Their self-esteem. We care about happiness. We absolutely care about your happiness. And we should need to keep track of psychological distress. In fact, another researcher did a test to figure out which one of these recovery vital signs was the strongest predictor of dropping out of treatment and other important outcomes, and they found that it was happiness. They didn't test recovery capital, so you set that aside, but all of that, happiness was the strongest predictor. Now, we went ahead and we rolled those vital signs up and we put them into a national study. This was the first national study of people who had resolved a problem with alcohol or other drugs. So it was a true recovery study. We gave it to the general population. We had a sampling frame that covered 98% of US postal addresses, thus yielding true prevalence estimates of recovery vital signs amongst people who have resolved a problem with alcohol or other drugs. And I want to show you some of the results that can range from people very recently entering into recovery to others who have been in recovery for 40 years. So if you take a look, 0 to 40 years since resolving a problem with alcohol or other drugs. A lot of these measurements are strength-based indicators, quality of life, happiness, recovery capital, self-esteem, starting low on that recovery journey, curving upward over time, and then shooting off, staying in a linear direction. This is not just because people are getting older. We've adjusted for age. We know people get happier when they get older. This is evidence that life gets better. I've got CEOs of treatment agencies telling me I want to put that on my wall of the waiting room and in the room of every person that works for me, so that they can see the evidence that life gets better. Psychological distress is the one that starts high, swinging down, continuously swinging down over time. These are some of the pictures that we've been missing from people's recovery process. In fact, if you take another look here, you will see that I have put a red arrow where quality of life finally returns to that of the general population who does not have a substance use disorder. It takes 15 years for quality of life to return to that of somebody that doesn't have a substance use disorder. This is too long. But when we know this, we can start to figure out what we need to target and what services will accelerate it. This is why we're here today. For places like Oxford House, who know that this is an accelerated process, who know that this is a way that you can intervene in this process of recovery. Furthermore, we can take the data and divide it according to primary substance. We're learning, again, who needs what when. So if you look at quality of life and recovery capital, you can see it takes 3 years for people in recovery from opioids or other drugs, which was mostly stimulants, to get to the level of people in recovery from alcohol or cannabis. That is 3 years. What does this tell us? When we have access to people in recovery from opioids or stimulants, they need access to services that build recovery capital. They need to build their quality of life upfront, quickly, fast, immediately, to accelerate this process. But one of the more interesting findings that came out of our study of recovery, I think, is this one right here. So I took the 40-year horizon and I zoomed in on just 2 years, because you can't see this when you look on the 40-year horizon. Do you see the dip that happens around the first 6 months, year or so? We learned that people are going to could feel worse about themselves than they did on day one. What is happening during that time period? Oh, I bet you all have some very healthy speculation on that, right? I bet you could probably take the mic now, right? So, the bubble, maybe it burst. They start to look back with clearer vision. Look what I have to make up. Look what I have to fix. I will also tell you that post-acute withdrawal symptoms may not be completely resolved yet. And so that means there is a lower capacity to experience normal levels of reward. Individuals are going to have increased sensitivity to stress. These are the main pathways that can trigger a recurrence of use. We are losing people at this time period during this dip. In fact, I think the person who says it best, I was giving a talk one time and a young lady took the stage. She was in recovery from injection heroin use. And she said, every time I get to about 2 years, I just think, well, what else is there? And I go back to it. She was putting into words what we're seeing in the data. We have to now start to build and map a U.S. infrastructure for substance use disorders that maps on top of what we know about this pathway, about recovering from drugs and alcohols. Our research trials with treatment are only 12 weeks long on average. Does that look like that covers that? We need to have short-term approaches, long-term approaches. We need to start to really be able to map services onto what we understand about course of illness and recovery, and we need to buffer and mitigate this dip in recovery vital signs. So let's get down to business. Recovery housing, all right? And so as a researcher, I will tell you that when reviewing this type of literature, there's a couple models, if you will, that emerge in the literature on recovery housing. Obviously, Oxford House. There's stuff called sober living homes, recovery residencies, but there's really, the goal is kind of the same. They're there to provide safe, abstinent, supportive housing with other peers in recovery to support long-term recovery. And so, the nature of this service, of recovery housing in general, this can really range from a peer-run, right, service, all the way up to having more levels of support, such as on-site clinical services. Recovery residencies come in a variety of forms. I will tell you that they are now the most widely available form of recovery support infrastructure in the United States. estimates ranging from 10,000 to 18,000. We've got Oxford House coming in at 4,200 houses across, serving over 30,000 beds. Yes, you are in good company with the National Alliance of Recovery Residencies, having 30 state affiliates, 4,500 certified residencies. This is how we build an infrastructure. The Oxford House has enjoyed a policy impact, absolutely. In fact, they are transforming the landscape of policy in medicine by proving that long-term recovery thrives when people are empowered to govern their own communities. This was once considered outside the bounds of traditional treatment, but the Oxford House model has forced policymakers and clinicians to expand their vision of what an effective care service looks like. Exactly. In the U.S. Surgeon General's report, they are mentioned. In the White House National Drug Control Strategies, they have been mentioned. And now, you have the medical industry knocking at your door. You absolutely have been formalized. The American Society of Addiction Medicine has formally put you into their patient placement criteria. They're going to come to you. They're going to want to know more about your service. They're going to be asking questions because the evidence has emerged. And so you are even becoming more formal on the continuum of care. You have operated independently, and now they want to join forces with you as well. So, although the establishment and growth of recovery housing is one kind of evidence in and of itself, a more systematic quantification of the causal link between recovery housing and recovery outcomes will help efforts to build an effective public health infrastructure. And so this is a recent publication that I put out. Recovery housing for substance use disorder. What we're looking at here is what I call a systematic review of the literature. What does that mean? It means I read every study published on recovery housing is what it means. So don't try to look at those numbers. That was my problem. That was my author's problem. We had to read every single study and basically reclassify it according to its study design, because the study design is how we can determine if it's going to answer a question about causality. What I was looking for was studies that use a comparison group that compare recovery housing to a non-recovery housing pathway to recovery. And so there was actually, despite hundreds and thousands of hits, honestly, 5 studies that met that criteria. 5 studies is not nothing, but it's also not a lot, right? So we want to take a look. I love to look under the hood. The first question you have to ask yourself, though, is who agreed to participate in a study of recovery housing? You got to understand the ask here. Who was willing to have their housing randomized? Because this affects who's willing to even enter into this situation. In other words, they were approached by researchers. The researchers said, I would like to randomize your housing. What does that mean? It means that basically with a flip of a coin, after, let's say, detoxification, either you'll get recovery housing or you won't. And they agreed to that. So you just have to think, maybe that means they could have been a vulnerable population, right? Maybe they were coming out of criminal justice, housing insecure, but you have to think about who this shapes, who this is. This is why the first thing I like to look at is who are these people? I can see from the study designs and the number of studies, 3 + 2, that's the 5 studies. Your average sample size is a couple hundred. That's not too bad as a researcher. That's not too bad. Mostly being recruited from re-entry programs, detoxification, residential treatments, post-criminal justice, coming up several times. The average age was about 40 across all of these studies. Percent female, about 35% on the randomized control, and then the non-randomized studies was about 90%. The race, the percent minoritized, 78% in one, 74%. Follow-up looks good. I don't know how you guys got such long-term follow-ups. I could just share us your secrets, please. 18 months. We're looking at outcomes that are going to be nearly 2 years out when I get to that point. 2 years after entering recovery housing. It's amazing. The primary drug of focus was usually mixed, as it usually is. But there was one study specific to those with opioid use disorder. So when I showed these results to my boss, the thing that jumped out at me was, why is nearly, in this case, almost 80% of these individuals black? Okay? It wasn't even like they were people of color, there was some Latino, maybe some Asian. It was really about 75% across the board were African American. The problem is that is not justified. They're only 14% of the population. It's not like addiction is more prevalent in the African American community. It's all about the same. So what is going on here? My boss said, Corey, that is a marker for something. You need to think about that. Okay? So I look at where they were recruited from. Do you see the recurring theme of reentry programs, post-criminal justice or post-criminal justice after treatment? I think that means something for why you have 78% African Americans in your clinical trials. I think about the war on drugs, and that was launched back in the late 60s and in the early 70s. But I think about what we had learned about it after the fact, meaning there was, even though it was launched in the Nixon campaign in the 90s, the architect of that war on drugs gave a very prominent interview. He said, the Nixon campaign, 1968, and the Nixon White House after that had two enemies, the anti-war left and black people. We knew we couldn't make it illegal to either be against the war or black, but by getting the public to associate hippies with marijuana and blacks with heroin, then criminalizing both heavily, we could disrupt those communities. We could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night after night on the evening news. Did we know we were lying about the drugs? Of course we did. But nonetheless, eventually, strong policies came out, and for the first time, we started to see incarceration as a result of possession. That was a game changer. Not only did it populate the prisons, but it also disproportionately populated the prisons with Black and Latinx people, making up 77% of those incarcerated in federal prisons for drug crimes. 57% of. We need more Oxford House and non-Oxford House studies. This was specific to opioid use disorder, so it's very interesting. It's the only time that this has been done specific to primary substance. But in 2012, after all of these people, about 250 of them left detoxification, they were randomly assigned to these groups. One, they call it continuing care as usual. Here's a list of services out in the community. Good luck to you. We'll check up with you, but good luck with whatever you decide. The second group, they were dedicated to recovery housing. It was abstinent contingent, meaning the rent was paid when they had negative drug screens. And the third condition, they threw in treatment. You can see here there are two evidence-based pathways to recovery. Recovery housing plus recovery housing with reinforced-based treatment as well. However, detoxification with just a list of resources is not a pathway to recovery, and that is for opioid use disorder. Remember the narrative on that. Without medications, you'll die. That is what the science, I will say, the science is very strong on medications, absolutely. There's a reason why the narrative is there. But what does this show you? It's not the only way, is it? We just need people to have options. We need more options to get more people in recovery. We need doctors to be able to say, well, if you choose to take the medication, maybe that could increase your chances of remission by maybe 45%. If you go to recovery housing, maybe increase your chances of remission by 35%. That's what we're building up to, so people can make decisions about their care and what they're willing to embrace. Now, let's take a look. All of the rest of the findings were from the Oxford House, right? And so you got a big slide here. You know, I only put the results on the screen if one group outperformed the other, because that's the question of comparative group analysis. So a lot of people can get better over time, but who outperformed the other? Every red check means it favored Oxford House significantly. This way. So you can see in 2006 when the Oxford's after detox, everybody leaving detox, after Oxford House was compared to continuing care as usual. Here's your services, good luck to you. 2 years later, 65% abstinent rate in the Oxford House. This is well after many people left the house on good terms, compared to 31% in continuing care as usual. You can see Oxford House doubled their monthly income. It cut incarceration by 1/3 compared to continuing care as usual. Exactly, yes. But I will say, even beyond incarceration, which I couldn't put on there, you've got rearrest was also significantly lower. You've got awaiting criminal charges was significantly lower. Across the board, the penal system involvement was lower in the Oxford House. And the cost to benefit analysis, net benefit per person, $29,000 a year in favor of the Oxford House. Again, when in 2015 it was compared to a therapeutic community. Now this is harder. This is an active comparison. You have got to be really good to outdo another residential setting that's also there to support people. But nonetheless, again, Oxford House outperforming them, 66% 2 years later, showing alcohol abstinence, and 40% compared to was in the therapeutic community had alcohol abstinence. That's right. The one thing that I noticed in this study is that I did not see a change in other drug use. I mention that because 85% of the sample had other drug use as a primary substance, okay? You can see Oxford House nearly doubled the number of days they were working per month. Oxford House, again, $13,000 net benefit in favor of the Oxford House. The other group, therapeutic communities, was negative in the whole $7,500, okay? Now, here's an interesting population, all women coming out of incarceration, okay? This is all women, over 90%, so this is an interesting sample because they were mixed before. But one of the things that I see in 2016 when Jason did this study, I see a lot of blank spots there. So my first reaction might be, we need to figure out how to help women coming out with carceral exposure better. But you can see there's one finding up there that I had to highlight for you, and it was mortality. Okay, it was not tested for statistical significance, but still we must describe it. 4 people who got continuing care as usual died at the 2-year checkup compared to 0 in Oxford House. You have a life-saving intervention on your hand here, a life-saving intervention. And then again, that last study, this is that same population, women coming out with carceral exposure going into Oxford House. Look what this study found. Here now we see changes in substance use going down for Oxford House by an average of 10 days per month. All the other groups, it increased. At the 2-year checkup, it increased by 12 days per month. It increased by 14 days per month. Oxford House was the only one to get a decrease with that. So, there you have it. Let's go ahead and sum it up. We saw evidence for the effectiveness on abstinence, income, employment, criminal charges, rearrest, and even incarceration. We also saw alcohol abstinence when compared to therapeutic communities. We saw reduced days of substance use, higher cost effectiveness. We did see some exceptions in the studies that had high percents of females coming out of incarceration. We want more for them. They're getting something. It appears that we might be saving lives. We also want more. And then recovery housing coming in, swooping in as a mechanism of what I call racial health equities for those who were disproportionately exposed to the war on drugs. So you have that under your belt as well. I'm Dr. Vilsaint. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Those statistics are very impressive, aren't they? All right, our next speaker is the Honorable Judge Kenneth M. Stoner from the Oklahoma County District Judge. I'm going to read his bio here. District Judge Kenneth Stoner currently oversees Oklahoma's county treatment courts, drug court and DUI court. Oklahoma County treatment courts are among the largest, top 1% in size, and most successful courts supervise diversion programs in the United States. Over 80% graduation rate. That's really high. He began his legal career in the Oklahoma County DA's office, serving as a felony prosecutor. He later went into private practice, focusing on corporate, entertainment, and criminal law. Prior to being appointed to the bench, he concentrated on the representation of clients suffering from addiction and mental health issues. Stoner graduated from OU College of Law with highest honors. He He currently serves on Oklahoma Opioid Task Force and the Oklahoma Attorney General's Opiate Abatement Committee, which grants over $10 million annually to assist with damage done by the overprescription of opioids. Judge Stoner is a sixth-generation Oklahomian and member of the Cherokee Nation. He and his wife, Barbara, have been married 33 years and have 3 sons, Max, Will, and Sam, who are not particularly impressed with any of his accomplishments. His hobbies include mountain biking, practicing mindfulness, and a daily cold plunge. Judge Stoner.
What's up, Oxford? Happy birthday. Happy birthday. If you've been everybody having a good time so far? All right, I'm glad to hear that, but the real fun starts now. No, just a little bit about me. Carrie, by the way, I enjoyed your remarks, Carrie. That was fantastic. I'm going to start with kind of why I'm here. I've been a judge for 8 years. I preside over the Oklahoma County Treatment Courts, which were in the top 1% in terms of size of judicially supervised programs, prison diversion programs, and we only work what we call high-risk people. And high-risk people are people that risk doesn't mean they're dangerous. It just means that they have usually failed probation multiple times or been to prison once or twice, and they're back again. Also, they have to have a moderate to severe substance use disorder to get into the program. We've got right around 4 out of 5 people graduate to come in the program, which is really quite remarkable. And so the reason I'm here is that I have literally had a front row seat working like one-on-one with thousands of people who have found recovery, okay? I've also seen hundreds of people fail, okay? But being in that seat, I'm able to kind of get a sense of what works and what doesn't work. And I just want to share some ideas with you guys today. Hopefully it'll be meaningful. I want to give you guys a little peek behind the curtain here, introduce you to my family. My great-great-grandfather was a guy by the name of Dick T. Morgan. In my life, it's like you kind of know you made it if you have your own Wikipedia page. So my great-great-grandfather was Oklahoma's first United States congressman. Okay, he served from 1908 to 1920 in the United States House of Representatives. He's known for being the father of the Federal Trade Commission, and he was also the legislator that created the GI Bill. You know, where you go to sort of military service and right. But his idea, whenever the GI Bill first started, was you get land for service. So you go serve the military, and then you could get land. And then later evolved into, we'll help you pay for college. But anyway, this is my great-great-grandfather. And I always love it when I meet people who have like famous relatives and celebrities. This is kind of cool and interesting. But what we're not going to talk about, though, is that my family is also full of alcoholics and horse thieves, okay? It's funny how we don't want to talk about those. We want to talk about our famous relatives, right? We want to talk about the ones that look how cool this is. But you know, we have far more people in my family that are not healthy, okay? As a matter of fact, I'm going to introduce my dad. My dad was in the Air Force. His name was Richard Stoner. My dad was in the Air Force. He's a pilot. And back when I was about 2 years old, he was piloting a plane that crashed. And when his plane crashed, they didn't find him for like 5 days. And he had like broken femur, broken hips, and severely dehydrated, really almost died. They were able to nurse him back to health, but he never really healed correctly, and he got addicted to opiates, okay? Matter of fact, and he at some point he became what they call a pill shopper. This is before he really understood what addiction was. He's a pill shopper. So they cut him off of that. He moved over to alcohol, and had an untimely death at the age of 55. I have a younger sister, Carrie, who died from complications from addiction at the age of 42. My mom was, she was one of those ones that was kind of the black sheep of the family, where she went from, whenever my dad was going through his stuff, she left and went from one unhealthy relationship to another one. So I grew up in a home with an alcoholic stepfather, in and out of jail all the time. And I actually started going to something called Alateen. Have we heard of that? Al-Anon, Alateen, AA. When I was about 8, and right around, I think 10, 11 years old is where I learned something called the Serenity Prayer. Y'all probably know about that. And so this has been a part of my life since I was a child, okay? And when I think about what we're all doing here today, there's something that brought us all here together. Every single person that's here in this room, we're here because we have a couple things in common. If you're in this room, it's not coincidence. We share something in common. If you're here, you're either affected, as me, I'm affected, or you're afflicted. Now, we're here for a purpose. I mean, I think it's not just a coincidence that we're all here together. We share this in common with each other. And I got to tell you that, growing up, I'm going to talk a little bit about trauma and kind of where all that comes from. I think we're all just kind of broken toys in our own way. I got my stuff, and I think you got your stuff, and all of us are either affected and afflicted. And it's okay to be a broken toy, because I'm going to tell you, there is more love, truth, and beauty than this room than any other conference they ever have at this hotel. So when I'm talking about being affected or afflicted, that's not a disparagement or anything, or being a broken toy. It's actually, sometimes they say it's when you're cracked and broken, that's when the light can get in. So what we share in common is, this is like a lot of you, there's been a lot of study about what they call adverse childhood experiences. Y'all heard about this? It's like PTSD for kids. We've all got this. Like, I'm in this club with you. So if you grew up in a home with a lot of physical abuse or emotional abuse, sexual abuse, domestic violence, parental substance abuse, mental illness, suicide, death in your family, you've got high ACEs. You got high ACEs. That's what causes to be affected or afflicted. And what we know about high ACEs and childhood trauma is that this is like a little pyramid that you start off with adverse childhood experiences that leads to disrupted neurological development, up all the way up to adoption of high-risk health behaviors like using substances and just engaging in what we call a lot of self-soothing behavior, okay? So I'm not really here because, I'm here because I'm the judge, but I'm here because I'm in the same club as you. I'm affected or afflicted. And this is what I'm going to share with you is part of my understanding of this addiction story, and also maybe the path to something better. And this is something that it's important to me, okay? And I want to just talk to you guys from my heart, because it's really a message from the heart is the only thing that could reach a heart, okay? If you don't transform this pain, you will surely transmit it to those that are around you and even to the next generation. So anybody here got kids? Anybody here got little brothers and sisters, little nieces and nephews? You're here to do some work, and part of this journey in your recovery is to figure out how to take what you've been through, these high ACEs, your experience, whatever that is that got you here, and transmute that into something beautiful. And the way I think about recovery, it's not here to give you your old life back. It gives you a chance to build the one you were born for. I'm going to introduce you to this guy's name's Will Rogers, and there's my Oklahomies over there. Will Rogers was also a tribal member. He's Cherokee. Who's one of our tribal members here? You got a lot of tribal members. All right, there you go. He was kind of like back in the day. He was a little bit maybe like a Jon Stewart. You know, he was a comedian, political commentary. He's very famous. And he said, "It ain't what you know for sure that gets you." No, he said, "It ain't what you don't know that gets you. It's what you know for sure, but just ain't so." And so when I think about recovery, and I think about we tend to have a lot of let's say maybe fixed ideas about this or that, and I want to encourage everybody to kind of open your mind a little bit and be able to take in some information and consider some different points of view here. A little bit of fun Oklahoma trivia. Oklahoma has 2 airports. One of our main airport in Oklahoma City is called Will Rogers International Airport, and we have another airport in Oklahoma City named Wiley Post Airport. We're the only state that has 2 airports that were named after people who died in a plane crash. Yeah, it's true. Anyway, this is one of my little favorite cartoons. It kind of dovetails with kind of having a fixed mindset about things. So if you've ever been, you're in recovery and you're feeling pretty good about your recovery, and you go back to the maybe people that are still wrestling with addiction, and you try to give them some ideas and say, "Hey, I've got some ideas for you." It reminds me of these 2 little cavemen here are trying to pull a wagon full of rocks with square wheels, and this guy saying, "Hey, I got an idea for you. Look right here. I got some round wheels for you." And he said, "No, thanks, man. We're just too busy." So I'm just saying, don't be those guys. In order to really talk about addiction, talk about the recovery side of it, I want to maybe clarify a few things about maybe we're all on the same page of even understanding what addiction is. There's a lot of very complicated definitions for it that involve genetics and circuitry and learned behavior, but I'm going to just break it down. I think whenever I think about addiction, a very simple way to think about it is compulsive use, loss of control, continued use despite harm, or cravings. And I really tend to dial in on continued use despite harm. That's really the touchstone. If you can just get it, yeah, you're using something, but it's really not helpful. And interestingly, I've discovered over the years, the person that is suffering from addiction is usually the least able to identify the harm. They don't always see it. They say it's hard to read the label from the inside of the bottle. But there are some myths about and also, an addiction is what they call a spectrum disorder. This has the word alcohol on it, but it's really, it could apply to about anything. So most of us in here, you're probably in the more moderate to severe category. So you can substitute alcohol for the word gambling or sex or whatever. Now, that being said, I don't know very many people who have a mild meth addiction, but there's probably an exception there. But anyway. What is addiction and what is it not? Okay. Some people, I think they get confused or they get distracted a little bit by thinking it's about physical dependence. It's about having just your body dependent on a substance. Or some people like to just say, well, it's just not having enough willpower. Or you know what it is? It's actually just bad people, because it's bad people doing bad stuff. Or maybe it's a brain disease or possibly a disorder, I'm not sure. So let's just tackle those, okay? Is it physical dependence? This is not what I'm talking about. So physical dependence is actually building tolerance on a substance. That means you would use, you have to use more and more of the same substance to get the same effect. And then when you quit using it, you go through a withdrawal type symptoms, okay? Now, I'm going to just do a thought experiment here for a minute. I want you to imagine, this is any human being, you're going into the hospital, and they're going to put you, and you're going to have a hip replacement. They put you on a morphine drip. And day after day, week after week, it takes more and more to get the same effect. And when they take you off of it, you're not going to feel good. I want some more of that. I mean, I don't feel good. I'm going with withdrawals. Okay. That would happen to anybody. Okay. But what I'm talking about when I'm talking about addiction, is that there's about 85% of us humans that will use our medications as prescribed. Now, there's about 15% of us that would say, okay, I'm going to give myself a little bit more. The doctor said I can give myself 1 drip an hour. I'm going to give myself a little bit more than that. There's about 3% of us humans that when they take off of that, they'll say, I got to go find that. Whatever that was, I got to go get some more of that. It might be more than 3% if we're talking about this room here, but that's not what I'm talking about when I'm talking about addiction. I'm not talking about the tolerance and withdrawal. I'm talking about that I gotta go find that. That's the kind of addiction that we're talking about here. Next, is it really just a lack of willpower? Well, right here, this would be on your left. Here's a couple of famous alcoholics. On your right is a couple famous people that were addicted to stimulants. And say whatever you want to say about their politics, no one's ever accused these people of being low on willpower, okay? And matter of fact, if it was just as simple as willpower, where does that even come from? If you could just flip a switch, the willpower switch, and have more of it, well, that'd be the solution, but nobody really knows how. Well, just have some willpower. I think willpower is important. I think it plays a role, but it has it's really not what this is about, okay? Is it just bad people? We call bad people being immoral behavior. Now, most people know this gentleman on the right, Sigmund Freud, because you see that cigar there, father of modern psychology. What a lot of people don't know about Sigmund Freud is that because he smoked those cigars, he developed a cancer in his mouth. And cocaine is known to be a pretty powerful oral anesthesia. And so he started using that, and he got himself addicted to cocaine. In order to get himself off the cocaine, he got himself addicted to morphine, and he actually died addicted to morphine and cocaine. Now, you probably don't know this other gentleman here, Dr. William Halsted, unless you're a cancer surgeon, because if you're a cancer surgeon, that guy is God to you. He's the father of modern cancer surgery. He was one of the 3 founders of Johns Hopkins University, and he was also hopelessly addicted to cocaine. Okay, I have no idea what it would have been like being a doctor on rounds with this guy at 6 o'clock in the morning. Everybody's bounced off the walls. But he was kind of famous, infamous, because he got all of his colleagues addicted to cocaine. All these other doctors. He eventually lost his appointment to John Hopkins. But no one's ever said these are bad people. These are not bad people doing bad stuff. So what is it? Is it really a brain disease or a disorder? Well, this is where I think it gets interesting. Is that this is back in 1997, the concept for the very first time in 1997, there was a paper published in Science, a very respected medical journal. It says, hey, addiction's a brain disease and it matters. And basically they'd done about 20 years of research, and at the time they're like, we've got to start looking at, this is before remember my dad was pill shopping and drinking and all this. This is even after my dad died, we started realizing this is a possibility. This might be a disease or a disorder. But there was some pretty good evidence that really this substance use changes the architecture of your brain, so they started calling it a disease. But then all of a sudden, another guy comes along, his name's Mark Lewis, and there's quite a bit of dialogue. They wrote a book. The entire book is called The Biology of Desires, Why Addiction is Not a Disease. And this is a very respected neuroscience, and he's saying it's not. So that's where I get really frustrated, especially when I go out and talk to community leaders, and they're like, well, it's not a disease. As a matter of fact, there's a guy that even talks about it not a disease. Okay, look, have you ever had one of those friends that they read the article, and they read the headline, but they don't read the article? That's what's going on here. This is a book about academic nerds. I'm sorry. She's not a nerd. But these are academics talking about how do you classify something? Should we call it a disease or should we call it a disorder? And Mark Lewis's argument is essentially is a little bit of an oversimplification, but he said, a disease is something like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, and those things really don't respond to things like community or incentives or sanctions or just social connection, but things like addiction does. So maybe we should call it a disorder, not a disease. So do not let anybody go, this is just about how do you classify and talk about it. There's nobody in this space that would argue, every expert understands that there's a lack of meaningful choice in the beginning, and addiction is best solved by compassionate treatment. So this is America's favorite drug, alcohol. Some people get upset when I call alcohol a drug, so, okay, I'm sorry. It's a mood-altering substance. Okay, this is America's favorite mood-altering substance, and if you'll notice up here, this is how much Americans drink per week. This is numbers of drink per week, and if you'll notice, there's about a third of Americans that do not drink at all. There's about a third of Americans that drink a little bit, and there's about a third of us that have 6 drinks a week. I'm sorry, about 10% of us that have about 6 drinks a week. There's about 10% of us that have about 15 drinks a week, and there are 10% of us that have 73 drinks a week. Okay, so here's the question. Is alcohol addictive? Trick question, because it certainly is for some people, but it's not for other people. There are actually people that do drink responsibly, but there is a certain population that it's very addictive to. And so what if that question I just asked you, is it addictive, is just a really bad question? It's not, I don't even think it's a good question, because a better question would be, what's different about this 10% or that 20%? What's different about the brains of that 20% that is definitely wrapped in addiction? Maybe alcohol is not the problem. Maybe alcohol is the solution to some other problem that they have. It's just a symptom of an other underlying issue. There tends to be so much focus on the substance, on the substance, on the substance, when I really think we should be looking behind the substance to try to figure out what's really going on. So what are the impediments? Why do people have a hard time getting recovery? I'm going to start with a couple of basic things. I think about the ancient Greeks. They used to say there were two sins that underlie every other sin. No matter what the sin was, you can always trace it back to these two things. What was it? They said it was actually a hubris or arrogance or a self-importance and impatience. And if you've been in a recovery or when you were in addiction, I want what I want when I want it. Whatever you want is not nearly as important as what I want, and I want it now. And so right now, and I also show this, whenever I show this slide to community leaders, because I'm talking about addiction and recovery, they think that I'm talking about you. And I'm not. I'm actually talking about them, because there's a lot of people that sit back over here and go, well, they just need to get better. They just need to change. They could just need to stop. And they just want what they want, and they want it now. Like, man, you just take some time and understand. You have to open your mind and have what we call a little bit of moral humility around this and try to understand, try to replace blame with curiosity, What is going on here? And you start making some progress. So really the key, of course, is patience and humility. And by the way, this is great relationship advice as well, if you're in a relationship. So we got to talk about brains for a second. Right now, behind your forehead, that's kind of the home of prefrontal cortex. That's the part of your brain that is executive function. It's the part of your brain that makes you uniquely human. Apes don't really have these. It's a home of really higher level thinking, okay? It helps us organize it, called executive function. Helps you decide helps you rank things, good, better, best. It also helps you, it's a home of our morals and values. It's also the home of impulse control. It's also the home of the part of the brain that helps you calculate the future consequences of your current behavior. And it's also the part of the brain that does not work well when you're in addiction. It goes offline. This part of the brain goes offline. Your executive function really starts to struggle. There's this part of your brain called the nucleus accumbens. That's really the seat of where addiction is. It's with a dopamine gauge. And we all want to have a nucleus accumbens because they've kept our species alive for the tens of thousands of years, but it was built to reinforce reward behavior. So for example, if you're, our ancestors out on the plains, you found some water and they say, oh, hey, this is good. Remember where you got this. And it gives you a little dopamine reward for finding this. Food, remember where you got this, come back again. Sex, hey, let's try this again. And so you get dopamine to reinforce behavior to help you focus and perseverate, means to focus on what it is that you want to do. But this is also the part of the brain that gets hacked with a lot of our mood altering substances. And your dopamine really tells your prefrontal cortex what to focus on. Now, this is a little bit what they call a dopamine deficiency theory of addiction, that we're all kind of born certain ways. Like, I know some of us are born a little bit more like Tiggers, and some of us are born a little bit more like Eeyores, okay? Now, by the way, any Tiggers in here? Okay. All right. Well, I'm sorry, Tiggers annoy me, okay? I mean, I know, right? I mean, they're happy all the time. I mean, they're just happy all the time. It's like they won the genetic lottery in a way. They're just like, hey, this is great. And then some of us are kind of Eeyores, like your kind of glasses half full. And when you think about who's more likely to be involved in an addiction, both of them are certainly at risk because they're a little bit outside the norms, but I think maybe you might look at a Tigger and say they're more likely to try a substance, maybe more impulse, but to become addicted, maybe the Eeyores. Whenever I meet people in drug courts, I say, man, when did you start using? What happened? What did this all start from? And why did you use? And man, some of the most common responses I get was like, it helped me fit in, helped me feel normal. It helped me, and I'm like, well, what's wrong with wanting to feel normal and wanting to fit in? It's a normal reaction to want to do that. I mean, it's not the right way to get there, but it's you don't want to demonize somebody for wanting to feel normal. You guys might have seen this chart before. I think it's super interesting. It actually relates to rats or mice, but they think it kind of dovetails over into humans. Like, this is our dopamine levels. So a normal dopamine, so an Eeyore, for example, might be like an 80 and a Tigger's like a 120, but the average human dopamine might be like 100, okay? Now, when you start using, certain substances, they spike your dopamine way up. So for example, you start getting into things like good foods you like, pops your dopamine to 150. Have sex, 200. Cocaine, 350. We've got prescription opioids, 500. You go up to heroin, fentanyl. The crystal methamphetamine just knocks the top off of dopamine. People are wondering, why do you lose your house, your car, your kids, your everything? And it's like, I know people that can't even stay on a diet for a week, and they're messing with 150 points of dopamine, yet this is like blowing the charts off. I had somebody ask me once, like, okay, wait, if it's 150 for food, 200 for sex, what would happen if you had sex while you're eating your favorite food? Like, I don't know. If anybody wants to do some research, let me know. Okay. So what causes someone to have continued use despite harm? If you've got continued use despite harm, what's going on? I'm going to submit to you, it's at least four things. Or a combination of four things. They're going to have some genetic factors at play. There definitely can be what we call people self-medicating symptoms of mental illness. People with a lot of trauma, we talked about that earlier. High ACEs is a really big deal. Or you've got people that started at an early age. I've never met anybody who's involved in continued use despite harm. They continue to use a substance that they didn't have at least one, if not a combination of these things. So this is the club that we're in. This is a club that we are in. Okay, I'm in this club. I've got high ACEs. Some people tell me I have poor mental health too, but that's another story. It's anyway, I don't mean poor mental health, but they call me a little crazy. But it might be one of these, or it might be a combination. You might have the genetic factors. You might have early use. A lot of people started, if you start at an adolescent brain, it has a tendency to hardwire your brain in that pattern. And so it's a combination of things. So let's kind of break this down. We already talked about the ACEs for a minute. If you grew up in a home where you had physical abuse, you're around, your parents were involved, you had a lot of trauma and chaos in your life, you're going to have high ACEs, high adverse child experience. It means your body as an adolescent or child adolescent, you bathe your body in cortisol, the stress hormone, week after week after week, and you probably have a heightened sensitivity. You might have a little bit of overreaction to fear, get triggered easily, okay? Again, we talked about how this runs, that creates it actually disrupts the architecture of your brain. And get you into adoption of health risk behaviors. It's everything from eating unhealthy foods, smoking cigarettes, to doing drugs. It's just what we're trying to do. We're trying to soothe ourselves to kind of feel normal. That's the way I look at it. And by the way, I don't want to cause any confusion here. Genetics do not cause addiction. It's not a cause of addiction. It just puts you in a risk group that if you have the gene and you have the substance, then you're at a higher risk of being it. So don't say, well, I got the gene, so therefore I eat. Well, no, if you never use a substance, you're not going to be addicted, even if you have the gene. But I have a friend that's board certified in addiction medicine. This genetics is actually more hereditary than breast cancer. So if you got that in your family, you just got to be careful. I've got it in my family. If you start at an early age, this relates to alcohol. 40% of kids who start drinking at the age of 15 become alcoholics. You wait till you're 21, it drops to 7%. So what's going on there? Why is that? Well, what's going on is that I'm going to show you a chart here, kind of on the left-hand side is just different parts of brain development, metabolism, myelination, that's like when they form synaptics, blood flow receptors. This is brain development, and the green area there is the adolescent years. It turns out that if you introduce a mood-altering substance during this adolescent years, it tends to hardwire the brain in that pattern. It tends to hardwire. This is kind of Mark Lewis is the guy that wrote that book about biology of desire. It's kind of his argument that, look, this is kind of learned behavior. It started at an early age. You've hardwired our brain. This is how brains work, actually. And by the way, that's one of my biggest fears about the whole stuff that's going on with cannabis right now, and kids think it's natural and normal, and because it's natural, you got an adolescent brain. Don't put anything in there. At least wait. This is a slide that kind of represents what we call myelination. Whenever all that means is that whenever your brain synapses, whenever they fire together, they end up wiring together. And the more they fire together, there's this little fat sheets. That's the kind of the greenish part on here, and it turns these little snaps into like these little super highways. It's really deeply forming these habits. And so it tends to hardwire your brain in that area. This represents an idea called synaptic pruning. When you're an adolescent, your brain goes through, and if you don't use certain things, you lose it. So if you don't ever learn impulse control, it gets pruned. We don't need it. We don't need impulse control. If you don't ever learn emotional regulation, like how to just deal with normally, it gets pruned. You don't need it. So these are the things that whenever you're thinking about adolescent use, it's just really risky. So this is a Venn diagram that kind of explains the relationship of addiction. Not everybody that has the genetics becomes addicted. Not everybody that has childhood trauma actually wrestles with addiction. Not everybody that has mental illness, of course, but underneath addiction, if you've got continued use despite harm, underneath that, you are dealing with at least one of those things. You started at an early age, you've had a lot of trauma, mental illness, or you've got genetic factors at play. Now, I don't know if anybody of you who chooses their genetics, or if you choose to have mental illness, or you chose to have trauma, or God help us, we're blaming people for their worst decisions when they were 13, 14, and 15. And so we got to step out of the blame game and start getting over the solution game. Okay. Absence versus recovery. This is something that's really important. I think that we touch on this quite a bit. The goal here is recovery, and recovery has less to do with the substance than people think. You can get sober by being in jail if you can't get drugs. You can get sober in drug court if you're just, I'm afraid of getting a sanction, so I'm not going to get a sanction, so I'm not going to use. That's sobriety. Recovery is voluntarily maintained. It's a lifestyle that you said, man, I've discovered this is a better way that I want to live. And it's not because I'm afraid of getting a sanction or something bad happened to me. I want to live this way. And it's earmarked by things like, of course, not using, but it's improving your physical health, your mental health, your relationships, social well-being. what they call citizenship. This is kind of funny, y'all. I'm a member of this thing called All Rise. It's a national drug court organization, and the big shots here in Washington, D.C., they don't like us using the word spirituality, and so they tell us to use the word citizenship instead of spirituality. And so I'm like, all right, we'll go along with that. But I think they get confused about it because it's really this idea in spirituality and the recovery traditions. This is the way I think about it. You can have a different view, of course, but it can be just as simple of saying, I have an appreciation for the mystery of that which is beyond and that which is between. Okay, there is something that connects us, and there's something that's beyond us. I mean, whatever this spark of consciousness is that animates my body is the same spark of consciousness that animates you. We share that in common. It's interesting, it's mysterious, but if you've got to start developing a sense of you're part of something bigger than yourself. And of course, you have an overall improved quality of your life. Y'all have probably seen this before. I know people think, well, you go to treatment, you get better. Yeah, sort of. Treatment is also, it's kind of messy business sometimes. You go from, it's not just, you just start getting better. It can kind of be a little bit of a tricky path there. I'm going to show you, this is a picture of this is a stock market there actually, but it's actually a pretty good representation of what recovery looks like. And you're always kind of moving up and to the left, but it doesn't mean everything's going right all the time. As a matter of fact, imagine being like, 8-10 months into recovery and you've worked really, really hard, you've got a lot, but see one of those first really big dips there, it is so easy to give up. You're like, oh my gosh, I've done all this stuff, and then one day you come home, you got in a car wreck and you lost your job and your girlfriend left you on the same day, and you're like, oh my gosh, I've been doing all this same stuff, and you just feel like you got punched in the gut, and sometimes you just want to stop and go back to the familiar and the comfortable. But I'm saying if you just pause for a second and realize you're on a path, and right now, your worst day now was better than your best day was just 6 months ago, okay? And that's why, yeah. And that's why Oxford and community is so important, because you need people around you to help you see that and remember that. Because in the time when you're struggling, you're in pain, that's not the thing that comes to your mind. And so that's why community is so important, because they put these things into perspective for you. So if you think about addiction, again, not about the substance nearly as much as it is about there's a system that you're in, and what does that system look like? And so both the addiction and recovery is like what they call a systems issue. So you've got to have, this is kind of like a blueprint for someone who wants to get into recovery. And this is how it works. It starts with safe, stable, sober housing. Thank you, Oxford, okay? That's where it starts. And then again, it starts with healthy relationships and positive peer associations. You got to change your people. Thank you, Oxford. I've changed my people, okay? You start working on your physical health, find some meaningful work, developing a sense of citizenship or spirituality, learning how to have sober fun, meaning, purpose, habits, sleep, nutrition, exercise, mood regulation, community connection. I was trying to explain this to some, I thought this was a useful illustration. If you'll imagine, if you're in addiction, if you've ever been out on the highway, where you're at, you got 4 lanes of traffic that are not going, and you think, okay, I'm stuck in this traffic, this is my addiction, the car in front of me is the substance, that's the meth, that's the alcohol, that's the fentanyl, okay? Guess what? Now, so what are you doing here? You're looking at the back windshields of cars that are in a traffic jam, okay? That's what the intent was here. And so this is you in the very right-hand corner, and the substance blocking your way. But guess what? It can't get out of the way because the car in front of that can't move. And the car in front of that can't move. And it turns out that none of these cars can move until the traffic jam starts to move. So if you kind of more of a holistic approach at recovery, and it's not about the substance nearly as much as getting out in front of your traffic jam and start, number one, surrender, accept your situation, start develop a little bit of meaning and purpose, maybe access to medication, some good sleep, healthy habits, community connection, employment, maybe some skill development to get the job, mood regulation, physical health, maybe some positive peers. All of a sudden, when those things start moving, the substance just kind of gets out of the way because you've been focusing on building a life that you want to show up for. That makes sense. So if you think about addiction and that recovery in this way, that this is an entire system that you're trying to recreate here. I mean, get the whole traffic jam moving so the substance can disappear. Now, shifting gears here. Y'all know who this is? So, in 1999, there was a movie that came out, of course, The Matrix. If you go look it up on IMDb or Netflix, they actually have this thing listed as a sci-fi thriller. But I don't think that's true. I think this is more like a documentary than a sci-fi thriller. And so if you're like me, if you were kind of captivated with this idea, if you've seen who all seen the movie? Everybody seen the movie? Okay, yeah. I got captivated with this idea that the world that we're living in is really not the real world. Like it's sort of a simulation of sorts, okay? Yeah. Now, I'm not trying to say that we're bodies that are in some kind of a pod or something. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying, here's the deal. We are living in a simulation, and we all have our own simulation that we're living in because you were encoded. So in the movie, you know, they have this program that keeps everybody docile and unaware and numb, so they don't know what the truth is, okay? Now, all of us actually, there was a program that was downloaded into you before you knew you had a chance to choose. You didn't know, okay? And what I mean by that is that birth through age 7, we spend a lot of time in a brain state called theta. Theta is a brain state that's associated with hypnotism, okay? It's kind of a dreamlike quality that you're actually just downloading information all the time, and it just bypasses your filter and you just accept it as reality. And you're downloading your environment and you're creating your own belief system, so everything you see, hear, be around becomes your normal. So if you grew up with chaos, if you grew up with addiction, if you grew up with even just something like having an absent parent and didn't have love and support and all that, like that's your matrix that you're living in. That's how you see the world. And it was programmed in you before you even realize you have a chance to choose. It's just part of your operating system. But somewhere along the way, maybe a little bit like Neo, they came and said, no, really, you know, this system that you've got, maybe it was whenever you're really cracked and broken, you're going through withdrawals, maybe you hit that rock bottom, and you start to see the patterns. You start realizing, wait a minute, there's these patterns over and over again. And maybe I can step out of this program and maybe I can start to choose what I want to do and reject this whole programming that you've had birth through age 7 that you've grown up with that you think is real. I think about addiction. I want you to think about this. I think people don't really choose to have addiction, but you have to make a choice to get out, okay? You do. I want to add something to this because I'm thinking about this. It's like, well, if it was just that easy, you just got to choose. If it was that easy, I would just choose. But it's really maybe one thing I need to put in there, but you have to learn you have a choice to get out. And that's why we spend so much time around other people in recovery, because you're like, I see them doing it. I'm learning that I can do it too. I'm learning that I can do it. But this is where it comes to, you can take the red pill and step out of your programming. Your past does not have to equal your future. Everybody knows that. You are not what happened to you, okay? You have to make a choice to get out of this and realize that what we call resilience is that your ability to bounce back is a skill that you can develop. I'm just curious, anybody in here, anybody's like a former athlete in here, like played high school ball or anything like that? Okay, anybody, how about musicians? Any musicians in here? Play instruments? Okay, quite a few. Sing? Okay. Athletes and musicians are my favorite people to work with in drug court, okay? Because they have an innate understanding. There is a correlation between practice And outcomes. If I practice, I get better. If I practice, I get better. If you've been involved in sports, you got a coach. Your coach, you started off not knowing how to do this. If you've been a musician, I didn't know how to do this. I practice. I hang around people that can do it. I watch what they do. I learn. I practice. I get better. Recovery is a skill. Resilience is a skill. You be around other people that are in recovery. It will grow on you. And you got to start. Also, there's some things you got to also think about here. Your habits, patterns, routines, and the stories that you tell yourself. You got to check in on your stories that you're telling yourself about your addiction. So one of my favorite stories, it's a little parable of ancient China. There's a farmer in ancient China who had a son. His son turned 16, and for the son's 16th birthday, they got him a horse. And everybody in the little village says, "Oh, very good. He has a horse. This is wonderful." And the monk in town says, "Oh yeah, well, we'll see." A couple days later, the horse knocks down the fence and runs away, and the young man lost his new horse, and everybody says, "Oh, this is horrible." And the monk goes, "Yeah, well, we'll see." And horses being herd creatures, the horse went out, and then actually when it came back to find the food, it brought 2 other horses with them, and they were able to close the gate, the fence behind the horse, and their one horse turned into 3 horses. And everybody said, "Oh, this is wonderful. This is wonderful." And the monk says, "Well, we'll see." And the young man, because these 2 new horses, they had to be broken. They were wild horses, and so they put the 16-year-old boy on the back of the horse to try to train the horse. And the horse bucked him off, and he broke his leg. Couldn't work, couldn't help his dad with the farming anymore. He broke his leg, as everybody says, "Oh, this is horrible. This is really bad." The monk says, "Well, I don't know. We'll see." A war breaks out in the region next to the village, and the military comes through the town drafting all the young men of fighting age, and they came to this young man they would have drafted him in, but because he has the broken leg, they passed him. He wasn't able to go off to war. All the other young men that was recruited from that town died in the war. Is it good or bad? I don't know. I would never wish addiction on anybody. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. But I'm here to tell you, some of the most amazing, beautiful, spiritually gifted people that I've ever met are people that have been through that hell of addiction and recovery. So it's, yeah. One of my favorite people has been to prison 3 times. He's like, "Man," he's like, "Stoner, I wouldn't be here if I had not had that experience." And so tell yourself, like, what? So, just because you're here and just because you've been through that doesn't define you. It just allows the light to get in, that you can grow from here. A lot of people don't have the challenge that you guys have been through. There's a lot of things in life that look like blessings on the surface that end up being curses. And there's some things that seem like they're curses, but they're actually blessings. So remember that. Now, in our drug court, we talk a lot about courage, and in recovery, you gotta get outside your comfort zone, because wherever you're at, that ain't where the magic's happening, okay? The magic happens outside your comfort zone. And so when we talk about courage, cultivating courage to get outside your comfort zone and grow, it's not, and by the way, people get a little confused about what courage, even myself, I used to think courage was like being fearless. I'm fearless. That's not what courage is. Courage is actually having fear and moving forward anyway. Okay? It's okay to be afraid. You got to do the next right thing regardless of how you're feeling about it at the moment. You can have some anxiety about it, you can have some fear, but just keep moving forward. And you know what? If you find yourself one day low on courage, because it's super easy to go, well, just have some more courage. It'd be easier to have more courage. Okay, we'd all just turn the courage dial up. How do you get more courage? You hang out with courageous people. Okay, that's why they tell you get a sponsor. That's why I tell you get a sponsor. Be around people who've accomplished what you're trying to accomplish. Watch what you put in your brain. Watch what you look. Be around, like, okay, I'm seeing the vibe here of courageous people. I can do that. Because I'm telling you, your comfort zone, you got to get out to your fear zone, your learning zone, it's up to your growth zone. I'm going to tell you a personal story about me, about courage. This is kind of where I cultivated some of my thoughts around this. In 2014, I had friends that wanted to go do one of these Spartan races, it's like one of those obstacle course races where they try to kill you. You know, you're crawling through stuff and climbing stuff. And I told my friends, I'm not going to do it. I can't do that because a big part of this race, you got to swim through cold water. And I hate cold water. I'm not doing it. And of course, then I go back and I start thinking about that. Is that really the right thing? Is everybody's going to, and I like, okay, wait a minute. Maybe what I should do is figure out how to get over my fear of cold water. So I started doing these like little internet searches, and I found this dude here. Has anybody heard of Wim Hof? Okay, yeah, he's in the Guinness Book of World Records 26 times, most famous for cold exposure. And he has this whole protocol of how you breathe and get used to cold water. And I started doing his stuff online, watching his videos, and I started practicing getting into cold water. He ended up he's from the Netherlands. He's Dutch, and so he has this really cool accent. He's on a podcast. You see him on Rogan, all that kind of stuff. But anyway, he came to the United States, and he had a little workshop, and I signed up for it, went to Dallas and spent a day with the dude, hung out with him. Anyway, so the first thing he says whenever he walks in the room, he says, "I'm going to teach you how to get high on your own supply. In your body, you have endorphins, you have norepinephrine, you have adrenaline and dopamine, and if you learn how to tap into your system, you can do anything." Like, man, this guy's a freak, but okay. But by the end of the day, he had me in an ice bath. So I went from having a fear of cold water to like in the cold water, and I went and did the Spartan race. And that's my story about courage. So I probably spent decades actually, been fascinated with the idea of human flourishing. What is it that really makes human beings grow and flourish? And I tell you, I'm a little bit weird about it. I spend a lot of time trying to understand stuff. I literally read hundreds of books. I've probably listened to several thousand hours of podcasts and YouTube videos. I've been to conferences. I've read the literature. I've read the studies. I've read all this stuff trying to figure out, man, what is it that really makes us humans thrive? And you know what you find out? There's actually tons of really good ideas out there if you're trying to find them. But there are 5 things. If you were to boil down, there's a lot of things that make a little bit of difference. There's 5 things that are like the things that, like, there's nothing. I'm about to share with you about my research as kind of boiled this down to, and you can kind of play around the edges, but if you're not doing these 5 things, these are the things that really, really, really move the needle. Okay. Now, so this is like, I call them non-negotiable. This is the fundamentals of mental health, which, by the way, they used to think that there was this thing called physical health, and there was this other thing called mental health. And what we've just figured out is they're actually really the same thing. How your body feels affects how you think affects your body. And just really, we should just be calling it health because they're so integrated. You want to improve your mental health, work on your physical health. You want to improve your physical health, work on your mental health. I've come to the conclusion in my life, I think that mental health is not just the most important thing, it's the only thing. Oh, wait a minute. What about nuclear war? Somebody's got their finger on a button that's going to nuclear war, and the mental health of the person that has their finger on the button is really important. I mean, your mental health it's at your operating system. Everything flows for your mental health. And so what I'm about to share with you is what I think is super important. You guys ready to hear it? Okay. Well, not yet, sorry. That's what you call a teaser. This right here is what luggage look like for the vast majority of just modern humans, okay? Why am I showing you this? Well, because somewhere around 1969, we put a man on the moon. And somewhere around 1972, we put wheels on luggage. We literally put a man on the moon before we figured out to put wheels on luggage. And it took to 1991 until we have something that's kind of like modern luggage, okay? Why am I showing you this? Is because sometimes the answers are actually really, really obvious, and they're right there in front of you the whole time, and you may have missed them. And so I think the most important things, that if you will do these things, they will help you exponentially more than anything else that you will do, is figure out, these are non-negotiable pillars of mental health. You got to figure out how to get good sleep. You got to get some exercise. You got to get some nutrition. You got to get around some positive social connection and learn about meditation or have some kind of a spiritual practice, okay? Now, around sleep, exercise, nutrition, why didn't the doctors tell us that? Just kidding. They've been telling us that forever. These are the things that are super important. All of us, because the club that we're in, we have impression on our vagus nerve, our nervous system, because we've had this traumas or whatever we've been through. We have kind of what we call a heightened fear response. So our amygdalas, that's a part of your brain that controls fight, flight, or freeze, is a little overreactive, and we have that embedded into our nervous system, okay? And that means you've got a lot of cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone. It actually does a lot of good things for us, but also if you're in our club, man, we have a hard time managing cortisol, okay? Well, actually, we have some ways that we manage it, but they're not healthy. Unhealthy ways to manage it. We want to talk about healthy ways to manage stress. Now, but you think about stress a little bit differently. It's actually designed by nature to enhance our focus, our decision making, our performance. Stress isn't always bad. It's actually there to help us, but again, it's part of the stories that you tell yourself about what's going on here. But even whenever, it's not really about avoiding the stress and realizing that for some of us, it's just like our ancestors. You know, if you're attacked by the bear, that's when your stress response comes to bear, so we can fight the bear. But for some of us, the bear's always there. And we're perceiving the threat all the time. We have this heightened, we've had imprinted on our nervous system the stress response, and so no matter where you go, we're always a little bit on edge. So how do you take that stress response up and build healthy habits, pattern, routine, and start building it down, pulling it back down? So my proposal, you are going to end up somewhere, so why not end up somewhere on purpose, okay? 5 years from now, you're going to be doing something. Do something on purpose. Figure out what you want to get there, because like rings on a tree, you will become what you do. You really have to work at your habits, patterns, routines. Habits, patterns, routines, and stories tell yourself are really what drive this ship. Now, I'm going to introduce you to probably one of the most famous experts on depression and neuroscience the world's ever known. Well, no, actually, he's just a celebrity, but he has some wise stuff to say. What he says was like, I believe that depression is legitimate, but I also believe that if you don't exercise, eat some nutritious food, get some sunlight, get some sleep, consume some positive material, surround yourself with support, then you're just not giving yourself a fighting chance. So, good stuff there. Sleep. If you get a minute, I mean, by the way, this is just a very high level, there could be an hour talk just about sleep. I could do an hour talk about exercise. I mean, this is to try to hopefully pique your curiosity to want to dig into a little bit further. There's a TED Talk on TED.com by Dr. Matthew Walker that will blow you away in 19 minutes, explaining exactly what's going on when you sleep, how critical it is. If you do have poor sleep, what you're going to find is cognitive impairment, emotional distress, poor physical health issues, chronic sleep, decreased performance, hormonal imbalance. Now, does anybody in here have trouble getting enough sleep? Good sleep? Yeah? Okay. All right. Also, I've done a lot of research on this, and there's a lot of great material in here, but I'm going to share with you probably the most powerful secret I've ever. I mean, it's almost like a magic wand how good this works. And I mean, there's all this stuff what they call like sleep hygiene, cool room, quiet, no screens before bed, don't drink caffeine after lunchtime. Those are all things that are important, sleep hygiene. But what I'm about to share to you, I think will really, really move the needle if you'll practice it. You guys ready to find out what it is? Go to bed. Go to bed. Just go to bed. We spend up all night on Netflix and video games and screens and whatever, man. Just set yourself a bedtime and go to bed. That's your hack, okay? It actually works. Exercise. A lot of people think they got to have a gym membership. That's not what I'm talking about. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Benefits of regular exercise. Truly astounding. You have things like more energy, better sleep, less stress, less depression, enhanced mood, improved memory, less anxiety, better sex life, higher life satisfaction, more creativity, okay? I want to introduce you to Michelle Seeger. She wrote a book that became the #1 health and fitness book in the year 2016, and I found this really fascinating because she said she's got, this was, in a way, really changed my thought about exercise. It's called No Sweat. And I'm going to boil it down to you. She said, do not exercise to get into shape. What? But she said, start out, don't exercise to get into shape. Figure out how you can exercise to have fun. Figure out how to have fun doing this, and it sticks. It will stick if your goal is to have fun, it will last. Focus on the immediate benefit and do it with other people. It's more likely to last if you're having fun and doing it with other people. So some people, when I talk about exercise, they think that I'm talking about this. I'm really talking about this or that. Get out, man. You don't have to go to a gym. Get out and have fun with other people. It's not about this. It's more like that. How do you don't, I mean, this doesn't look as fun to me, but this does. Do it with other people and get out. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on nutrition. I will just tell you, because I don't here to tell anybody how to eat or what to eat. And by the way, yes, I'm still pro cookie. All right. That's not what I'm talking about. You don't have to be a yoga monster and be a vegan or whatever, but you do need to have some kind of philosophy around food, because what we are learning is that how you eat, what you consume is actually has a huge impact on how you feel and how you operate. And there's only about 3 things you can control. One is what you eat, when you eat, and how much you eat. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but just pick so much as you want. You're going to have a problem, okay? So just work on what, maybe cut down how often you eat, what you eat, how much it is, and it's a personal decision, but you got to be working on it. The meditation, this is, probably one of the most meaningful things to me. I think it's also very misunderstood. Meditation, matter of fact, I would actually like to rename it from mindfulness meditation, because everybody thinks they know what it means. For me, I wish we would call it training your brain to be emotionally non-reactive. And I don't know how you do that, but it's basically the idea of learning how to pay attention on purpose without judgment. On purpose, learning how to pay attention to the present moment without judgment. And there's and it's a skill of just staying in the moment, because we were talking about these stories that we tell ourselves over and over again. A lot of them are not even true. You're just training your brain to be emotionally non-reactive. It has a quality to it. There's something, if you're just kind of in this daydreaming mode, your brain goes in what they call the default mode network. And not to get too technical here, but you literally can rewire your brain by just kind of a simple practice of just sitting down, practicing, paying attention to the present moment on purpose without judgment. And all of a sudden it kind of calms this default mode network. It helps us be less reactive, more present, improves your focus, makes you feel more content. I think it's a very powerful tool for emotional balance. The problem with meditation, I think, is that when you first start doing it, the changes that you experience are very, very subtle, okay? So if you every time you meditate, you only got 0.5% better, you may not be able to tell. And so like a week later, I've been doing this for a week, it's kind of boring, I've been doing it for a week, I can't really tell. In a way, it's almost like saying if somebody went to the gym for a week, so I went to the gym for a week and I don't think it did anything. What would y'all say? If I went to the gym for a week, I don't think it really did anything. You might want to stick with it a little bit longer, okay? It just takes a while to practice stuff over and over again before it starts making a difference. If you don't have enough time, that's what people say, I don't have enough time to meditate. You should set meditation for about 20 minutes. Unless you're too busy, then you need to set for an hour. So it's just a meditation thing. So, and by the way, I've been on silent retreat. It's probably one of the most difficult things I've ever done, but this is central to my life, and I would be remiss. It's a way of actually figuring out how to connect with your higher self in a way, sitting still, being still. Quakers, whenever they pray, they don't pray like, hey, God, this is what I want. They sit and they listen, and they're trying to listen. And in a way, it's a little bit about like a Quaker prayer in a way. A couple apps that I really like, Headspace, Positive Social Connection. This is a guy that graduated my drug court, Toby Loneker. He said, man, my tribe is my vibe. Your tribe is your vibe. And so that's why Oxford obviously makes it work. Be around positive people. I don't know any of y'all, but like if, like you and I, we don't know each other, do we? No, we don't know each other. But if I were to spend time getting to know the 5 people that you spend the most time with, I could probably learn a lot about you, right? Yeah, when you just show me your friends, I'll show you your future. Watch who you spend time with and what you put in your brain. We're all wired for a connection. This is Johann Hari. If you ever seen a great TED Talk, I actually got to meet him at a TED conference years ago. I'm going to skip over this one here, kind of run out of time. I want to close with just a couple quick things. So we talked about the courage to do hard things, getting outside your comfort zone. I want to encourage you to really embrace this concept. At my sober living house, I actually started a sober living house myself. It's a nonprofit called Seneca House in Oklahoma City. Yep. We have a painting in there. It just says, do hard things, okay? Mastering a skill is hard, but living without skills is harder. Quitting addictions is hard, but living with addictions is harder. Building meaningful relationships can be hard, but being lonely is harder. Fitness and nutrition can be hard, but being sick is harder. Do easy things in your life will get harder. Do hard things in your life gets easier. Yeah. The last thing I want to share with you is recovery is really not just about abstinence. It's the moment that you wake up and you realize I don't have to live in the old program. I can choose my own code. That's next level recovery, okay? The final thing I want to leave with you guys is we're living in some weird times. and you know, and this is not a political statement, but you know, sometimes I wonder, man, everything seems to be kind of unraveling a little bit, like the old way that we've lived for a long time as humans. And I really, we'll get there, but I think we're going to have to go through some rough times to get there. Things are kind of unraveling, but I think Oxford is the thread that we all remember that we have so much more in common than we have different, and we all just got to stick together, y'all. We all just got to stick together. I love you. Thanks for letting me come and talk to you. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Judge Stoner. Let's give another round of applause to Dr. Vilsaint and Judge Stoner. Thank you.
All right. Now for the moment you've all been waiting for, I know. We're going to do the World Council speeches. So the Oxford House World Council is an advisory council made up of Oxford House members and alumni who serve staggered 3-year cycles. Each year at the convention, members and alumni vie for an open seat on the World Council. During the convention, members will vote and elect 5 members for the 2025 voting cycle. Of 3 members will serve a full 3-year cycle ending in 2028. Also, 2 members will be elected to a 1-year alternate cycle. Additionally, members and alumni will elect 1 alumni member for a 3-year voting cycle ending in 2028 and 1 alumni member for a 1-year cycle ending in 2026 as an alternate alumni member. Notably, members from Louisiana, Virginia, Colorado, Florida, Nebraska, and Kansas are ineligible to run, as well as an alumni from Louisiana and Texas. So, without further ado, I'm going to call the individuals up. For House members is James Nelson from Oregon, Demetria Hunter from North Carolina, Dion Gardner from Texas, Ryan Eisen from Ohio, Alex Satoropoulos from Illinois, Jose Contreras from Texas, Dan Waldron from Washington, Jeremy Skinner from Kentucky, Jeanette Guerrero from Arizona, and Christian Hoy from Delaware. If you will make your way down to the stage and come up on the stage, Because we are tight on time, we have 30 minutes to do this, and we have 19 people. We are revising. You get 1 minute. If you can't convince these people in 1 minute, you don't need an extra 2. We're going to go starting with is that everybody? No. That ain't 10. James Nelson from Oregon.
I got 1 minute. All right, I'm going to wing this real quick. Hey, my name is James Nelson. I'm from Salem, Oregon, Chapter 20. I've served on our Chapter 20 HSC. I'm our Chapter 20 chair. I'm also our Chapter 20/21 fundraiser chair. I've got a good, strong chapter. I served as an interim last term. I was nominated for a state association HSC position, which I denied to serve my chapter a full term, to tighten it up and strengthen it, and we're thriving. I've also, as far as fundraising goes, I've implemented some great events. We just pulled off our second annual Paul Malloy Day event, kickball competition, barbecue. It was great. So I come up with some great ideas, and I'm very passionate about Oxford House and what it does for us, myself, and what we can do for others. Thank you.
All right. Demetria Hunter from North Carolina.
What's up? My name is Demetria Hunter from Oxford House 27, Oxford House, Pruitt House. I just wanted to run for World Council just to see what it's like to see Oxford House on a larger scale. I'm a housing services representative for my chapter. I've served in all positions. I've actually had the opportunity to work for Oxford House at one point in time, and I absolutely loved it. I want to continue my journey with Oxford House just to see what it looks like on a bigger scale. Please vote for me.
All right, Dion Gardner from Texas. All right, Ryan Eisen from Ohio.
Hello, everybody. I'm Ryan Eisen from the great state of Ohio. Go Bucks. I've done every position on the House level. I'm from Oxford House Buckeyes in Columbus, Chapter 4. I'm also the Chapter 4 chair. I do a lot on the state level. I am also the Chapter Services representative on the state level. The reason why I want to do this is, well, for one, I wanted to put myself in an uncomfortable position. Talking to the sponsor, he told me, that's how you grow. And in Oxford House, we have a saying here, it's grow or go. So that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to run for World Council. Even if you guys don't vote for me, I'm still up here doing the thing. And what I do at my job, I'm a cake decorator. I make cakes for people. I make their days happy. And I put the icing on the cake. That's all I gotta say.
That's a good shirt idea for next year. Alex Soteropoulos from Illinois.
What's up, Oxford House? So they said we got a minute. It's going to take me about a minute to pronounce my name. So just real quick, you guys, I'm not going to tell you why I'm qualified or that I'm more qualified. I think you guys are going to be all right with anybody on this stage. But I will tell you a quick story, and I'll make it quick. I didn't want to do any of this shit when I got here. I didn't want to be involved in the House. I didn't want to be involved in the chapter in the state. And I'm the state chair of Illinois. We don't need to get to that. A week later, they brought me here last year. Within an hour of me being here, some tatted up cheerleader ran in the room and started screaming. There she is. Yeah, I'm friends with her on Facebook. So I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And then, so I start talking to everybody, and I get off the elevator, and there's a dude in a nice suit, and he's talking. He's like, how's it going? And I told him the whole story. I'm like, I don't want to do any of this shit, bro. I was like, oh, this shit is crazy. I said, but it's been the best thing that I've ever done for my recovery. And then I come and sit down, and I'm telling one of my outreach workers about it, and then the dude with the suit comes in. I'm like, oh, I talked to that dude, he's cool, man. And then he keeps walking, he walks all the way to the stage. I'm like, oh, who is that guy? And he got up and he started talking, it was Jackson. No idea. And he told the story, and Cody busted me out. So the point is, you guys, a year later, my 27-year-old son just moved into an Oxford house and had been sober for 9 months. So not only for me, not only for the great state of Illinois, but for my family. Anything you guys need, I'll do. Thank you.
Thank you. Jose Contreras from Texas.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jose, and I'm from a great state of Texas. And for me, when I came to Oxford House in 2018, I felt at home. I felt that I had found a place where I could grow and I could finally be myself and be accepted for myself. And I want that feeling for other people. And through service work, I have been able to improve those changes for people in our area through education, through replication, through responsibility, and through recovery. For me, it would be the greatest honor to be a part of the World Council and serve at this next level of service and make all of you guys proud. And thank you so much. If you want to slay the Oxford way, vote for Jose.
Dan Waldron from Washington.
So everybody was right. Just go from your heart. So here's my heart. So my name's Dan Waldron. Everybody calls me Bandana Dan. I've been clean and sober for 24 years. Since 2001. So I've done every position in the house numerous times. I've done a lot of positions in the chapter. I'm really dedicated, sincere, and honest, and I've done a lot of good. So I don't know what else to say besides vote for Bandana Dan.
Jeremy Skinner from Kentucky.
All right, Oxford House. My name's Jeremy. I'm from Northern Kentucky. I'm at House Dikimos. I serve as the reentry chair for my chapter, and I serve as secretary for the state association. I came to Oxford House not knowing what to expect, and I found a family. I try to carry this message that our ideals and principles to be kind and generous to everyone, not just addicts and alcoholics. Maybe one person at a time we can help heal this world that is full of negativity, and bring the positivity that we bring. Thank you all, and God bless.
Jeanette Guerrero from Arizona.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeanette, and I am honored and blessed to stand before you today as someone who has found not just sobriety, but a purpose in community and leadership through Oxford House. I began my journey in Oxford House June 4, 2023, and I've been blessed to continue growing in Oxford House Adobe. I remember my first chapter meeting. I immediately knew I wanted to become a part of chapter, not knowing exactly what I was about, but knew I was willing to learn and if given the chance. That's when I became a chapter treasurer. A few months later, I was given another chance to experience something new, my first Oxford House World Convention. I'm deeply committed to Oxford House and leading with love and recovery, especially for the newcomer. I've held nearly every position in my house. I've served in multiple roles and even experienced a chapter split. I've helped newcomers learn their roles and responsibilities. I've even helped restructure a house that had lost its democratic foundation, ensuring it would have thrive again. Today, I serve as the treasurer for the Arizona State Association. I know every position inside and out. I love teaching others, and whether at the house level or the chapter level, My goal is to continue helping members grow in their recovery and to welcome the newcomers with open arms and to uphold the traditions and principles that make Oxford House so powerful. Thank you.
And last but not least, Christian Hoy from Delaware.
How we doing? So my name's Christian Hoy. I'm a member of Oxford House Rocco, Newark, Delaware, the best house in Delaware. So I first moved into Oxford House about 3.5 years ago, a house with 12 people, nervous, scared, had no idea anything about Oxford House, but I got involved immediately. Month and a half in, my outreach worker asked me to help open a house, and I said yes. So any way I can give back what was freely given to me, I'll do it. Last year, I helped open another house in Newark, Delaware, and it's been an honor watching every member of that house achieve such achievements, whether it's an anniversary, new job. I've served with a bunch of chapter positions. I've helped train the newcomers on positions. This is my 3rd year running, and I'm not gonna give up, because one thing that I didn't do in my addiction is give up. But I can tell you this much, never give up and always achieve your dreams.
Thank you all very much. You will be able to start voting this afternoon, right? At 5 o'clock. Thank you all. All right. We're going to start with the follow on to the alumni members. Can I get Anthony Aducci from Virginia? Anthony Aducci from Virginia. Tony Sowards from North Carolina. Otis Brock from Kentucky. Pat Smith from Oregon. Justin Allen from Nebraska. Paige Johns from Oklahoma. Alex Lewis from Kansas. And Victor Estrada from Washington. Hey Jackson, I think next year we need to get a decibel reader so we can figure out how loud it is in here. All right, we're going to start with Anthony Aducci from Virginia.
Oxford House. My name is Anthony, and I am an addict. In recovery since 11/24/14. I'm from the state of Virginia. I was graciously funded by Maryland to be here this year, and I would like to get your vote for World Council alumni. It's hard to stand up here and say good things about yourself, but I'm pretty much a legend in Virginia. I've helped out hundreds of people, funded them myself out of my own pocket, which is a blessing to be able to do today. I dedicate my life to helping out others behind the scenes as best as I can. I would like to use my hard work ethic to step into one of the most prestigious roles today, World Council alumni member. It requires the most work out of anything, is from what I understand. And I'd like to be given that opportunity to do that for you guys. If I could have your vote, that's all. Thank you.
I think it's the first time we've ever had a purple person. Definitely memorable. Tony Sowards from North Carolina.
Hello, family. My name is Tony Sowards. I'd like to ask you all for a moment of silence. I'll give you my time for your silence, your moment. Thank you for your commitment this morning to stay clean and sober. This is about recovery and is about the model, what we represent. I have been around for a while. I was here for the planning of the first World Convention. I have been employed by Oxford House. I was on the World Council in 2011. I've held every position, open houses. It's an honor and a privilege to call you family. It's not a coincidence that I'm here. It's been a rough year, and I want to thank my Oxford House family, staff and residents. You know who you are, and your love and support makes a difference, and that's what we do. And thank you. Love you.
All right, Otis Brock from Kentucky.
Wow. Hey man, Oxford House is the only place that can have a chick from Indiana braiding the hair of a dude from Kentucky. That's fellowship, y'all, for real. So look, man, I wrote this whole thing out and I'm pretty sure I can rip through it real quick, so that's what we're gonna do here. So I've served as chapter secretary, chapter alumni chair, state association voting alumni. I'm the voting alumni at the Evo House in Frankfort, Kentucky, chapter 19, where I'm from. I was part of helping break off and start a new chapter, helped the new house I was a member of to gain members and to stabilize from some rough times. Served all but chore coordinator in the house, thank God. And let's see here. I'm very dedicated. I know this ain't Oxford House, but I'm very dedicated to my AA program too. I served as GSR for the home group, served as corrections chair at the district level, current district chairperson, and I participate in the area state level. Upside down triangle and traditions I can really relate to. Oxford House was there for me at over 2.5 years sober, was going through a divorce and became basically homeless. Jared, where you at? You over there, man? He helped me out very seriously in an emergency situation. And I didn't have to give up that 2.5 years of sobriety, which was with my plan. And I just want to give back to y'all, man. I just want to try to be of service any way I can in this program. Thank y'all.
All right, Pat Smith from Oregon.
Wow. Hello, family. I'm Pat. I'm from Salem, Oregon, chapter 21. I've held all the positions in the House. At one time, there's a time that a guy said that, I was saying I was wanting to have some changes and stuff, and he said, why don't you get involved? And that's exactly what I did, and I hit the ground running. As soon as I did, I became the chapter chair, and I was the chair for that chapter for 2 years. Along the way, I became the state co-chair for the state of Oregon. I've helped chapters start HSCs. I've started a newcomers meeting with the help of others, and also I've created a Zoom link for a newcomers meeting to help chapters get closer to the newcomers, to give that newcomer a chance for long-term recovery. In closing, I would like to say that I have a passion for Oxford House, and then whatever is put in front of me, I always hit the ground running. My name is Pat Smith. I'm running for the Alumni World Council. Thanks.
All right, Justin Allen from Nebraska.
All right, hello everybody, my name is Justin, and I'm an addict and an alcoholic from Nebraska. And I honestly feel this is bigger than me, and it's bigger than all of us. It's really about those who come next, those that have stopped and want to stay stopped. And that's what we do. We're Oxford House. What that is we provide safe, sober, supportive homes that are run democratically and that have no time limits, that focus on recovery, and that focus on recovery and operate autonomously. We pay our own bills, recognize that we can ask for help, and the concept is contagious, proven by our expansion and the massive number of alumni who continue to give back. And I do think that's beautiful, and that's why I promote, propagate, and protect it. And that is why I'm running for World Council.
All right, Paige Johns from Oklahoma.
Hi guys, my name is Paige and my gratitude speaks through my service work. You can ask my sponsor, she's in this room. We set a lot of boundaries working on that. Heavily involved in the National Oxford House Alumni Committee or Conference. I'm super excited and grateful for this honor to even be able to run and be up here on this stage to try to represent you guys. When I was told welcome home, it saved my life. And I want that legacy to live on for the next newcomer that isn't in this room yet. So I would be eternally grateful if I would have this opportunity. Thank you.
All right, Alex Lewis from Kansas.
Hi everyone, my name is Alex Lewis from Kansas. So I lived in Oxford for 5 years. During those 5 years, I held every chapter position, multiple state positions, and am currently the state chair for Kansas. Before Oxford, I was lost. I was stuck in the cycle of addiction, isolation, and hopelessness. I had burned bridges with friends and family, and I didn't think I had a future. I knew I wanted to change, but I had no idea where to start. Oxford House not only provided a roof over my head, it gave me a foundation in which to start a new life, a life that I am proud of, a life that is still growing. Without Oxford House, I can honestly say I don't know where I would be today. That is why I'm forever grateful and want to stay connected as alumni. I'm running for Rural Council alumni because I want to help strengthen and energize our alumni community. I believe in the life-changing power of the Oxford House model, and I want to give back to the community that helped save and transform my life. Running for this position is more about than just staying involved. It's about giving back what has been given to me, building those bridges and ensuring that our alumni community is a drive between impact and leadership. It's a chance to have a voice in recovery, a bridge of past and present members, and a champion for those still walking the path we walked. Thank you. One more thing, if I win, I'll put vending machines in all the houses.
And last but not least, Victor Estrada from Washington.
My name is Victor and I'm an addict. In the beginning, I wasn't planning on running for this position, but Washington State voted for me to run. You know, what I could tell you, what I bring to the table is I bring some knowledge, some experience and advocacy, you know, making change at a state level, helping find funding for Oxford, you know, and just suiting up and showing up. Last night, they were talking about all this stuff that we're gonna have to do, and it kind of seemed like they were trying to put some fear in us about commitment. You know, I wasn't scared to get loaded, you know, and I'm not scared to help give back to Oxford. You know, the organization that gave me an opportunity when I had nowhere to go. My family put me back on the streets, you know, and since for the last 10 years, man, I've been committed. I show up. Even when I got kicked out of Oxford, I still showed up, and then I moved back in, you know, and I'm very passionate about recovery, you know. I don't know, man, without Oxford House and being able to be at events like this, you know, I don't know what my life would be like. It would be boring, you know. And I also have, it said something last night, you know, make sure you have a partner that's willing to like accept your commitments, and my wife supports me in everything that I do, so I don't have to be worried about her getting mad if I can't take her on a date, you know. I'm already married. Yeah, hey, thank you guys. You know, don't be a dick, vote for Vic.
All right, thank you very much. So voting will start and open up. Hey, all right now. Voting will start at 5 p.m. You can access it if you scan the QR code on the back of your badge. The rules are self-explanatory. And don't try to vote more than you're supposed to. because we'll catch you. We'll get you. We'll get you. All right. At this time, I'll turn it over to Jackson for the Director's Award. The Director 100-Year Awards.
Okay, you don't want to leave the room, I promise, because we have a special treat before the awards. You guys want a surprise? You guys like surprises? I got a big one. How would you like a sneak peek of the documentary? We're going to show a sneak peek of the documentary. Let's give it up for North 40, who's here taking photos and filming. If we can get everybody to find a seat, we really want everybody to find a seat. Find a seat in a chair, please. If we could get everybody to find a seat in a chair. We're going to get through this. We're going to show this little sneak peek, this little teaser, and then we're going to do state photos. I'm going to call you all by state to either come up front to take a photo or to go out and down the hall to take a photo. But I really want everybody to come in and have a seat and a chair so that we can continue on with programming. Please and thank you. Okay, Alex, let's go ahead and play this trailer.
God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Welcome home to Oxford House. You have now joined into a family that are going to be there for you through thick and thin, and the price is responsibility.
Our goal and mission is to ensure that anyone who wants a safe, supportive environment to recover has that.
The story of Oxford House is a testament to the true power of love and community.
God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Welcome home to Oxford House. You have now joined into a family that are going to be there for you through thick and thin, and the price is responsibility.
Our goal and mission is to ensure that anyone who wants a safe, supportive environment to recover has that.
The story of Oxford House is a testament to the true power of love and community.
For me, this is where it all started. Moved here December of 1988.
I had no idea what I was getting into.
In my late 40s, I was worse than I was as a teenager running the streets.
During my addiction, it was always about finding ways to distract my kids. I made decisions that I'm not proud of, but at the end of the day, I do deserve to be a mom, and I can be a good mom.
It changed the trajectory of my life, because if I would have went back to where I was, chances would have been very slim that I stayed sober.
Would you be shocked to learn that a bunch of recovering alcoholics and addicts would like to rent the house next door to you? Well, the man who would like to make that happen is Paul Malloy.
Addiction is treatable.
We want the world to see that we can maintain sobriety and become successful, responsible members of society.
For a different life, for a rebirth, it starts with the transition of the mind.
This is 99 problems, but drugs ain't one.
It's a story of recovery. It's a story of acceptance. It's a story of gaining life. It's a home.
That gets me emotional. The full length will be shown tonight after the fireworks, so please come back. Plan on staying up late, get caffeinated during the breaks. You can do the drag show at 7, the fireworks at 9:30, and the documentary at 10 p.m. Okay, we have a tradition here on Friday afternoons. You all ready for this? I'm going to call states. We're going to need everybody to understand the instructions. So we're going to have states that have a large delegate count. We're going to have one person from that state, preferably the state chair, come up to the front and grab these certificates. These certificates are very, very important. They are houses and chapters and associations that have donated to Oxford House Incorporated every month consistently for a year, and we want them to be recognized. Oxford House Inc. does not require dues to be chartered, as a lot of organizations do. They require membership dues. We don't require it. We ask that you, as a house, vote yourself to donate $50 a month to Oxford House Incorporated, and about 35% of the houses in the country do that. So we thank you very much. It helps us tremendously in so many ways. We would like to see more than 35% donate, though. If I can challenge you to go back home and ask houses to participate. The state chair will come get the award, and the larger states will go out the doors, out the ballroom, and down the hall, past the OHI table. There's that big open area by the escalators going up to the breakouts. You're going to huddle there, and there will be Sarah. Who's taking the photo outside? Is it Kevon? Kevon will be up on the balcony taking a photo, aerial photo from you down below. So you're going to go out and down. Consecutively, I will call states that have a smaller delegation here present, and they will come up here where Ashley is waving her hands up to the front of the room, and you will get a photo taken, and you will have one person receive your award. And we also have board members who are going to take pictures with you as a thank you to the kind donation that you give to Oxford House Incorporated. So we're going to get through this as fast as we can, but it does take a minute for a lot of us to move around, okay? And when we get picture taken, you have a break till 7, till the drag show starts. So I'm going to try to, I just need everybody's cooperation. I'm going to try to move through this as quickly as I can so we can get out of here, okay? Will y'all work with me and be patient with me so we can do this in an orderly fashion? All right. First on the list, this state usually gets called last. We're going to call them first this year. Washington State. Send one person up to get the awards. Everybody else, please safely and quietly exit the ballroom and go down the hallway to stage for the photo. They have 157 delegates here. They have 374 houses. And they have 232 awards. Will Washington State be the first state to reach 400 houses? There's a couple states on your tail. Florida and Texas are coming up strong. And for the small state to come up and get a photo at the front of the room, I'm going to ask West Virginia to come up. West Virginia, they have 5 delegates present. They have 21 houses, and they are receiving 4 awards. And as Washington makes their way out, I'll kind of try to get it to where there's not too bad of a traffic jam, because here's the reality. I know everybody wants to get up, get their picture taken, but I'm really doing a lot of you a favor by allowing you to sit in a comfortable chair until you can actually make it out to get the photo, so you're not just standing in the hallway waiting for people in front of you. So I'm going to try to keep everybody comfortable just for a minute. I know some of y'all already snuck out and went and got nicotine. I saw you. So everybody can just hang out just for a little bit. We're going to get a nice break. You can refresh, maybe go take a nap, recaffeinate so that we have a long night tonight. How many of you, can I ask an honest question? Can I get an honest answer? How many of you are planning on going out and checking out DC tonight, aren't going to stick around for the festivities? Well, you're going to miss out. You're going to have FOMO. How many of you are going to stick around and enjoy what's going on in here? Okay, let's get to the next state. If I can have everybody's attention. Everybody's attention. I know we're excited. High energy group. The next big state, I'm going to call out their numbers first, then call the state. 157 delegates, 173 houses, and 161 awards, the highest percentage of awards in the country. Virginia, make your way out of the ballroom, send one delegate up to receive the awards, and you can make your way out to behind Washington. They should be hopefully getting their picture. Is there an alien in the back of the room? I saw a cow yesterday and a cheerleader. Today I've seen Thanos and an alien. For this small state with 11 delegates present, 32 houses and 8 awards, Wisconsin. If you want to make your way up to the front of the room to receive your awards and take a group photo. What is the purpose of the alien? Is there something happening that... Is there a secret schedule agenda that I don't know about? Is it just for fun? Because why not, right? Why not? Pennsylvania? I think it's amazing that as states we can all have these shirts that we wear on the same day, and most of the states have a unique color. Are you guys getting together to claim who gets what color? Or do you guys just go with it and say this is our color? And Kentucky always does neon, I know that. There's always neon with Kentucky. And I know there's a tradition, Virginia always sells tie-dye shirts. If you've been around, always tie-dye. Okay, we're moving pretty good. We're gonna keep this going. For the small state, this is the state that's gonna come up front with 52 delegates, 129 houses, and 42 awards. South Carolina. Come on down. You're going to come to the front of the room, get your picture taken. Okay, the big state, the large state with 212 delegates, 347 houses, and probably the most improved number of new awards, 186 awards. The great state of Texas. Make your way out of the ballroom, but send one person down to get the awards. In South Carolina, you're kind of a medium-sized delegation, you're going to have to really crunch in that corner. Get the tall people in the back. And who's going to be the goofy one laying on the floor? There's always that one person. Who's the one laying on the floor? Texas is a large delegation. They're still making their way out of the ballroom. But they're doing it in a very quiet, orderly fashion. Thank you, Texas. I'm hearing the clack, clack of the fans. Is that the proper terminology? Clack? Is that the noise a fan makes, a clack? Clack? Okay, look, South Carolina, they have good form, South Carolina, good form. How's everybody doing? Has everybody figured out where all the rooms are yet for the breakouts and the... No, we're still trying to figure it out. It's a little confusing. You'll have it figured out by the time the last breakout starts. How do we like this hotel? How many of you got tired of waiting for the elevators and have taken the stairs to your room? How many of you are walking more than 15,000 steps a day? Okay, the next small state, and this is a medium-sized delegation, but that's just how the math worked out, was 63 delegates, 164 houses, and 126 awards, a huge jump. Oklahoma, my home state. Make your way to the front for a photo. Be sure to grab your awards. And it's important to take these awards back and distribute them at the chapter meetings so that those houses can be celebrated. It's very important. Make a big deal about it. Frame them. Do not tack them to the corkboard in your house. Please. You're a stage 1 house if you tack a certificate to the corkboard. How many of you have your permanent charter tacked to the corkboard? They do have the certificate at 1.5, stage 1.5. Okay, for the large state, with 105 delegates present, 179 houses in the state, and 51 awards, Tennessee. Send one delegate up front. I think everybody in the room knows who you are. And Tennessee, make your way out the hallway, down the hall for the group photo, aerial shot. And I've seen Oklahoma take group photos. They know how to do it. Oklahoma has some pretty cool shirts, don't they? Man, whoever designed those is pretty talented. Did somebody lose an ID? There's a room key envelope that has an ID. If you see it in one of the chairs or on the floor in here as you're looking around, please turn it into Lost and Found, the OHI desk. And I do want to ask something as we're kind of waiting for the next round. I've been asking for you guys to make pacts with me and be honest with me, and I'm going to ask for another favor as we finish out programming for this day and look into a full day of Saturday. Can we all please, when we come into the breakouts and especially the general sessions, can we all agree to please find a seat to sit in and not sit on the floor or stand in the back and congregate around the doors? Can we try just as best we can to try to find a seat somewhere in the ballroom and keep a seat? We've been asked by the hotel to make sure that we're not congregating around the doors. There's fire safety and there's codes and stuff. We really want everybody in chairs. We brought some extra chairs to put in the back for some people that may have some anxiety issues about being tight around large crowds. We're trying to be as accommodating as we can. It's a large room. There are a lot of people here, but I'm just asking, please, let's try to take a seat and stay in a seat when we come in, okay? Okay, the next small group with 16 delegates, 56 houses, and 4 awards is Ohio. Ohio, come on up. You're going to take I can't tell what they're chanting. They're chanting something. I'll learn all of them. I'll have all of them memorized by the end of the day. Okay, as they come up to the front of the room, for the large state that's going to go out and down the hall, they have 91 delegates present, 240 houses, and 47 awards. Oregon, send 1 representative to the front, and then you can make your way out. And in case you were wondering how this order was chosen, I just went reverse alphabetical. I had to shift a little based on big or small states, so it's not in exact order, because we have some small states consecutively, so that a couple of them may have gotten skipped. So there's no special treatment. It's just reverse alphabetical this year. So I'm not picking on anybody, I promise. Some of your beautiful faces I just like seeing longer. Please don't forget, ballots are going to be opening up at 5. We have the DePaul studies that you can participate in. How many of you have downloaded the convention app and have posted a picture in the social wall, or you can get on the social wall and see pictures and communicate? How many of you created your own schedule? Custom schedule on there? Okay, for the next small state, as we're getting the photo here, with 24 delegates, 49 houses, and 3 awards, the Empire State, New York. A state on the rise, a state that has been opening a lot of houses. And listen to this. This is the first time this state has been called in the big state category. They were in the small state category, and they've grown with 60 delegates, 96 houses, and 40 awards. Nebraska. They're very close to 100 houses. Are we going to have a party in Nebraska when we hit 100 houses? Are we all invited? Did you hear that? We're all invited. How many of you were at the World Convention last year in Orlando, Florida? I will say that was one of the most epic Friday night events. We took over the pool area. That was pretty incredible. Until I got the late night call near midnight that somebody had put some kind of bubbling soap in the jacuzzi. And so we had to call the hotel, and they had to drain and clean and refill the jacuzzi. That was not fun. So whoever did that, ha, 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 ha. I think the support animal is ready to leave the building. Like I've been up here watching, tugging on the, like ready to go. Like let's get it going. Let's keep it moving. Okay, so I'm gonna keep it moving. Small state coming up to the front, 18 delegates, 24 houses and 7 awards. New Mexico. This is New Mexico, where are they at? There they are, back center, we see you. Come on up to the front. And the big state with 40 delegates, 167 houses, and 57 awards, New Jersey. Forget about it. New Jersey, make your way out to the ballroom, but send one person up to get the awards. We're getting there, we're getting close. Thank you everybody for your patience. Thank you very much. Does everybody know where we're having a World Convention next year? Denver, Colorado. And the Gaylord in Denver, Colorado feels like a huge ski lodge with a lot of natural wood. They have a water park with a lazy river. It's pretty cool. A view, some of you will have a view of the Rocky Mountains from your hotel room. Very beautiful. Okay, the next small state to come up to the front with 12 delegates, 19 houses, and 8 awards, Mississippi. Let's give it up for some of the smaller states that they're saving lives just like the bigger states are. They're doing the deal. They may not be as loud in the room where we have all the large delegations, but they're doing the deal too. For the large state with 129 delegates, 326 houses, and 153 awards, North Carolina. They're excited. How many of you are playing the scavenger hunt? You can win $250 if you get the highest score. You can have fun in the scavenger hunt and get a cash prize. That's a win-win. I'll give you the answer to one. We need one representative to come get the awards, North Carolina. North Carolina. There we go. So I'm going to give you all that are still in the room, I'm going to give you one of the answers to one of the scavenger hunt questions. Which state had the very first state convention? That was North Carolina. That's one of the answers to the scavenger hunt question. Another answer? I've forgotten all the questions. I can't play. I'm ineligible from playing. I did approve them, though. Because the last time we did a scavenger hunt in Seattle in 2022, they put me on the scavenger hunt. So I had people coming up wanting selfies of me, and I just thought I was really popular, but they were trying to win money. And they were coming up to me at not the best times. I thought, I was like, wow, what happened? How did I get so popular? It had nothing to do with me. Louisiana is, well, Alabama is not. Okay, small state. Not that small delegation, really. It's a medium. 51 delegates, 62 houses, 39 awards. Missouri, come up to the front. There they are. And the large state, how are we doing in the hallway? Is there a long line of large states waiting? We're good? All right, we're moving right along. Large state with 163 present. They already know. $222 houses in the state and 52 awards. The great state of Kansas. The very loud state of Kansas. Sorry, I forgot to let you know. You're gonna have to pivot with me. Okay, I'm gonna pivot a little bit because of the way that we have to work these photos. I'm gonna ask Alabama to come up front and get a photo after Missouri. 32 delegates, 90 houses, 29 awards. So you're gonna wait in the wings to get a photo. And for the large state, I'm gonna circle back. So, Mr. Weatherspoon, you're just gonna have to hustle, my dear friend. We're going to circle back and we're going to say with 68 delegates, 195 houses, 134 awards, and the best gumbo on the planet, Louisiana, make your way out. Be sure to send one person up to get the awards. Okay, Louisiana, I'm going to ask you the same thing. You're about to hit 200. Are we invited to the party? I have a question for you, Florida. Let's have a conversation, Florida. Let's have a conversation. You all hosted the World Convention last year. You're opening 100 houses a month. Would you like to host the World Convention in 2032? We're in negotiations to come back to Florida in 2032. So stick around. Like 3 of you will still be here. Oh. Some of y'all are losing your voices. The struggle is real. Okay, let's get a small state. 49 delegates, 134 houses, and 45 awards. Kentucky, come up to the front, Kentucky. You're going to get a picture up in the front. And as they make their way up, we're going to keep it moving. A big state that's going to go out in the hallway, 64 delegates present, 107 houses, 71 awards, Indiana. So I'm very sorry, Brittany. You're going to have to change shirts very quickly. Take a picture with Kentucky, then run out and take a picture with Indiana. But I believe in you. I believe you can do it. We have regional managers with multiple states who want to be in all the photos. I'm trying. I'm doing my best. I called New Mexico already, right? Okay. Jeremy threw me off my list. He threw me off my... I must really love you, Jeremy. We all love Jeremy. Small state coming up front, but they've made big jumps in delegates attended. 36 here, 118 houses, and 58 awards. Illinois. Illinois will be in the large group next year, won't you? For big state, with 184 delegates. $274 houses and 151 awards. Puerto Rico. I mean, Florida. Okay, we're going to let them file out. Okay, I'm going to call 2 small states back to back just to get my order here. With 3 delegates, 16 houses, and 9 awards, we have Idaho. Come up to the front for a photo. With 6 delegates, 24 houses, and 4 awards, Hawaii, come to the front. With 5 delegates, 5 houses, and 4 awards, Georgia, come up to the front. Let's give it up for these small states. Come on, let's hear it. Each one of them is going to go home and open a house, and they're going to double the number of houses. All right, big state, 48 houses, or 48 delegates, 90 houses, 27 awards. Delaware, I see you back there. Not really, but I see white. I see white shirts. Are they white shirts? Okay. Send one person to the front to get the awards. Everybody else can make their way out the hallway to go get a photo. And for the small states, it's actually going to be a pretty large photo here in the corner because there's 30 delegates. This is a double state. 29 houses for DC, 38 for Maryland, 8 awards for DC, 12 for Maryland. DC, Maryland. We're going to have you take picture together, DC, Maryland. And they have the privilege of hosting the convention every other year. We get to come to their hometown every other year. Okay, I'm going to call the last 2 big states that have awards. 42 delegates, 130 houses, 65 awards. Colorado. And with 102 delegates, 137 houses, and 107 awards, Arizona. Arizona, was that loud enough? That wasn't loud enough. I didn't hear you, Arizona. Let me hear you. Okay, and then to get some photos, we don't have any certificates yet, but we're going to change that for these states. California, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, and South Dakota. If you want to come up and make your way to the front, we will get a group photo with all of your delegates together. And it is 4:57. I did all that before 5 o'clock. Can you believe that? How's that for timing, AV team? Thank you, Ashley. And your team, everybody that helped out Ashley. Zach, yes, but there was like 20 people helping, right, in a room. There was more than just you two. I announced it. I don't know if somebody found it. All right, be back at 7 for the drag show.